Hello students, welcome to JS Tutorials. In the present session, we will be discussing about water quality test. Before sending water to the public consumption, we need to check the quality of water. Based on the three parameters, we have to evaluate the water, that is physical parameter, chemical parameter and biological parameter. After checking that, we have to ensure that they should be within the standards. If they are not, then it will cause the public health, and which may in turn leads to the waterborne diseases, as we have discussed in the last class. So each parameter have to be detailedly we will be studying in the coming sessions, coming PPTs. First one is physical parameter. Physical parameter can be judged by perception. First one is color. The color should be transparent. It should not contain any color like straw yellow color or the light that is cloudish in nature. Any color it should not possess, only transparent in color. Color can also be scaled on a scale called as Cobalt scale. On the Cobalt scale, the potable water should show less than 5 points. Next one is odor. It should be odorless. It should not contain any kind of smell like rotten egg smell, foul smell, or any oily smell. Any kind of bad smell it should not consist of. That is odorless. Next one is tasteless. It should not contain any taste like sweet, bitter, salt taste. No taste. That is tasteless. Water should be colorless, tasteless, odorless. Next one is temperature. Temperature, it should maintain, and the drinking water's temperature should maintain 10 to 20 degrees. It should not go neither less nor high. If it goes less, then it leads to the frozen conditions, which are not at all good for the public health, or that is increase in water temperature also leads to the ill health. Okay, it can be measured by using thermometer. Next one is pH. pH is nothing but negative logarithm of H plus ions, which may be complex in listening, but I'll make it simpler. So negative logarithm of H plus ions means here what is the ionic formula of water? Is H plus OH minus ions, isn't it? So the water constituent is H plus and OH minus ions. So if the water is containing more H plus ions, then we can say that that particular water is acidic in nature, or that particular solution is acidic in nature. If the solution or a water, if it consists of, that liquid is consists of OH, more amount of OH minus ion, then it is basic in nature. So pH scale consists of points from 0 to 4 scale. Okay, so 7 is the neutral one. From 0 to 7 it is acidic, it shows the acidic character. From 7 to 14 basic character. So as per the drinking standards, the pH of water should be 6.5 to 8.5. If it is more, that is more than 8.5, then it leads to basic nature. If it is less, that is 6.5, if it is any less in the water, then it is basic acidic in nature. It can be judged by, in the laboratory, it can be judged by using pH meter or litmus paper. By using pH meter, you can test this your water sample, or by using your litmus paper. If you dip litmus paper in the water, if it converts to light reddish in color, then it indicates the presence of acidic nature. If it converts to light bluish in color, then it indicates that basic nature. If it doesn't converts to any color, no color change, then it is neutral. Understood? So like that we have to evaluate pH. The pH of water is 6.5 to 8.5. Please remember these units, these standards. Next one is conductivity. Conductivity means when do the water conducts electricity is when water is contaminated or water consists of any dissolved salts or ions, then it conducts electricity or resists electricity. So whatever it may be. So if you take rainwater will not conduct electricity, or distilled water will not conduct electricity. Why? Because it doesn't contain any kind of dissolved salts. So they will not conduct water. So electricity. So if the water has been contaminated with dissolved salts, then it conducts more electricity. If it contains less, then so it depends upon the contamination of dissolved salts. If dissolved salts are more conduction, that is more resistance will be there. If less, then less resistance will be there. It can be measured by using Siemens per centimeter. If it is less than 200 Siemens per centimeter, then it is safe for drinking, or it is recommended for drinking. If it is more, then we have to go for the that is treatment methods. It can be judged by using conductivity meter in the laboratory. Next one is turbidity. Turbidity here means, here if a water is like oil, like thickness, I'm telling about the thickness. If the water is like oil, can you able to drink? No. So the the water should be lesser in in density. Okay, so that is, this turbidity is caused due to the presence of suspended solids in the water. If more suspended solids are there, because of these suspended solids, turbidity will be caused, and this turbidity can be checked by using a meter called as turbidity meter, and the units are NTU. NTU means Neflo turbidity units, and the limit is 1 to 5 NTU. Mostly for the water, less than 1 NTU is preferable, till 5 it is acceptable. Next one is chemical parameters. There are n number of chemical parameters we have, but if you can study these when in your laboratory, you will be doing these only. If you can study this, you can get through your exam. Even for the competitive exams is more than enough. If you want still more, just comment me in the comment box. I'll be sending you more these tests. First one is total solids. Total solids means what? Here in the water, you total dissolved solids plus total suspended solid. Dissolved solids, as I told you earlier, total dissolved solids which are dissolved in water, which cannot be visible. Okay, so those are called as total dissolved solids. Suspended, these are in the suspension form. In the water molecule, these are suspended in form. So these two solids, if at all present in water, these two solids combinedly form the total solids. How to estimate this is, so in chemical parameters can be evaluated or estimated in the laboratory. It can be quantified. So next, here the total dissolved solids should be not more than 250 mg per liter. Even the suspended solids also not more than 250 mg per liter. Total solid should be less than 500 mg per liter. So how to evaluate this is, so take a beaker containing water, whatever the water sample you want to measure, or you want to estimate the total solids and total dissolved solids and suspended solids. Pass through a filter, allow that particular water to pass through a filter paper. Vatman filter paper, and this Vatman filter paper allows only water to flow through it, and all the suspended particles will be locked up in the Vatman filter paper. Dry this Vatman filter paper and weigh it. Next, after collecting the filtrate, you keep that filtrate in the oven for evaporating. After complete evaporation, that beaker, again weigh the beaker. You will get the dissolved salt. Dissolved salts plus suspended salts which are left behind on the filter paper will give you total solids present in that particular liter water. Okay, per liter, for a liter of water, total solid should be less than 500 mg per liter. Here 250 mg per liter in both the cases. Like that you have to evaluate. Next one is alkalinity and acidity. Alkalinity and acidity can be estimated by titrometric method, by neutralization titration method. If you want to estimate the alkalinity, then you have to take acid solution, that is diluted acid, in your burette. If you want to estimate the acidity, then alkaline solution you have to take it in the burette, and by titration method you have to conduct this. So here also 250 mg per liter only. Here the limit is 250 mg per liter. Like that you have to quantify. It should be less, not more than that. Next is hardness of water, is very important. Okay, in your competitive exams, most probably they will be asking you more questions. Most probable questions can be posed on this hardness of water. Hardness of water is caused due to the presence of cations like calcium and magnesium. Because of the calcium and magnesium ions, this hardness is caused. What is hardness? Hardness is nothing but presence of calcium and magnesium ion. In layman talking, like layman explanation, we can say that we will be getting less foam when we apply soap or any detergent. So less foam will be evaluated like that. Okay, so if you use these waters continuously for in the boilers for boiling purposes and all, then it leads to the castic embrittlement. If you use these waters for construction purposes, then the precipitate of calcium and magnesium will hinder the reactions of dehydration, and also the setting problems will occur. Thereby the complete construction may not be successful. Next, if you take for the laundry or the textile industry for cleaning purposes or anything, this precipitate may get locked up in the fiber and it may damage the textile industry or the laundry industry. Then if you go for the cooking and all, it will take much time or much fuel for cooking purposes. If you regularly take this calcium content that is waters, then it may lead to the kidney stone. So these are the side effects you have if you use these hard waters. And the limit for if at all, if you are happen to on can but conditions, if you want to take these waters, then it should not the hardness of water should not go beyond 300 mg per liter. Okay, so that is the limit, total hardness limit, 300 mg per liter. So here the total hardnesses are of two types. One is temporary hardness, another one is permanent hardness. Temporary hardness is caused due to the presence of carbonates and bicarbonates. Permanent hardness is caused by due to the attachment of sulfates, any other nitrates like that. Okay, so it will cost. So temporary hardness can be removed just by boiling water. If the temporary hardness can be removed, whereas permanent hardness can be removed only by three methods. Either by lime soda method, you have to make the water stir with lime and soda continuously, thereby all the calcium and magnesium ions get precipitated at the bottom of the tank. Or else you have to pass the water through the zeolite bed, so that zeolite beds will allow this calcium and magnesium will be locked up in that particular beds. Or you have to allow this water to pass through the ion exchange resins. So in that ion exchange, these resins will capture the calcium and magnesium ions, thereby the water the hardness can be removed, and you can use that waters for the construction, either for drinking purpose like that. So it can be estimated by the titrometric method. It's also, this particular reaction is also called as complexometric method. Here the agent called as EDTA and an indicator called as electron black tea, EBT. By using the EBT and by using EDTA in your burette, you have to titrate your water sample using the indicator EBT. It's a complex reaction, so it is also called as complexometric reaction. Okay, so the standard limit for hardness is 300 mg per liter. Next is chlorides. When you come to the chlorides is a mineral which is embedded in the earth's crust. So it gets contaminated in water. If it gets contaminated in water, if you more excess amount of chlorine if you happen to take, then it may lead to the excess osmoregulation, hypertensions like that it may lead to. So some of the gastric intestinal problems also we will get. So even in the construction process we will have the improper settings. So there even acidic character, it leads to the acidic character. Chloride will lead to the acidic character. So these are the disadvantages if more chlorides are been fed in the water. So how to estimate this? By using AgNO3. It's also a titrometric method. In the burette we have to take AgNO3. In the we have to titrate, and a red precipitate will be forming this. So that is why this particular reaction is also called as precipitation reaction. Here the chlorides also, the limit should be less than 250 mg per liter. 200 is advisable, till 250 it is not objectionable. Next is fluorides. Fluorides can be estimated through colorimetric method, titrometric method, as well as spectrophotometric method also. Here the limit is 1 to 1.5 only mg per liter. So here if more amount of this is also a mineral, it get contaminated in water. So if this particular fluorides are being taken in more in amount along with the water, then the calcium is replaced by this fluorine, and this fluorine, if it gets replaces the calcium, then our bones become brittle and easily broken down, so it may leads to cripple nature. Next one is nitrates. Nitrates also can be estimated by using colorimetric method. Here colorimetric method, this nitrates happen to contaminate in the water bodies whenever there is a fields in and around. In the fields they will be using NPK, that is artificial fertilizers. These artificial fertilizers, during the runoff, when they happen to flow through this runoff and contaminate the water bodies, these water bodies which are rich in nutrients, they will undergo a process called as eutrophication. Eutrophication means all the algal blooms, the green patch will form on the water body. Thereby what happens is oxygen as well as the sunlight cannot go in deeper levels of the water, so thereby the water body will become stagnant and it start degrading. So that is the, if these waters are being happen to consume by the human beings, then toxicity levels in the body will increase. So if the pregnant ladies, if they consume these waters regularly, then they will give rise to a baby called as blue baby syndrome, and these babies cannot be stable and they may collapse. So that is about your nitrates. It can be estimated by colorimetric method, and the limit is 45 ppm to 50 ppm. Next one is sulfates. Sulfates are also one of the mineral which is present in the earth's crust. If it get contaminated in the water, so if this sulfur content is been consumed more through the water, inflammation in the gastric intestine, sometimes it may leads to the ulcers also. So here it can be estimated by using your colorimetric method. The limit is 250 mg per liter. Next one is iron. Yes, iron, the presence of iron in the water itself will indicate the light brownish in nature, will show the contamination of iron. So iron is very essential for the blood formation, but at the same time this is a micro element. If it been taken in large quantity, then it can toxicate the blood, so it will leads to many problems in the blood. So it can be estimated by the colorimetric method or the spectrophotographic method. So the limit is 0.3 mg per liter. Next is residual chlorine. So when you come to the residual chlorine, so during the treatment, whenever the chlorine is left behind in the water, and this chlorine, when it distributed along with the water, when this chlorine distributed to the consumers, and if the consumers happen to consume this chlorine content water, so there will be an irritation in the intestinal tract and mucus get damages. So in order to remove that, there are dechlorinating agents we have to add, and dechlorinating it, and we can check this chlorination, residual chlorine, by using residual chlorine kit, by examining the shades of chlorination. Others also we can study. So this is for these parameters are more than enough for your exam. Next one is biological parameters. Biological parameters means any contamination in the water. Mostly the contamination in the water are bacteria, protozoa and fungi. Mostly the potable waters get contaminated with fecal matter, that is E. coli forms only we can witness in this water. So how to test this are, there are mainly three types: presumptive test, confirmative test and complete test. Presumptive test. What is presumptive test is, we have to take a lactose broth in a test tube. lactose broth in a test tube, and we have to that is a sample, whatever the water we want to judge, you have to keep 2 to 3 drops of water in that particular lactose broth and incubate for more than 24 hours, that is 48 hours, at a temperature of 44.5 degrees centigrade. So if you incubate that, then the bubbles, if there is an evolution of bubbles, that is gas formation in the lactose broth, then we can say that there may be coliform present in this particular water sample which we are taken. For that we have to if it is due to the presence of coliform or due to other forms, in order to confirm it, we have to further go for the confirmative and complete test. So even the plate count test and total count test. What is plate count test and total count test? Is plate count test is nothing but here we have to take the Petri plates. In that Petri plates we have to pour the agar gel, which is a semi-solid gel. It gets solidified. So on that particular solidified gel we have to keep a drop of water. On that we have to spread that drop of water on this agar gel. So, and you have to incubate this particular gel for 48 hours at a certain degree, that is 45.5 degrees centigrade. After 48 hours, if this gel is decolored, then we can say that some coliforms are present in that particular water body. Total count means here also the test tubes are being taken with lactose broth and different concentrations, different 10 ml, 5 ml, 2 ml, like that water samples are to be taken, are to be inoculated in this lactose broth, and formation, and observe the formation of more formation of bubbles, gas bubbles, which gives you the total count of this. Okay, so this is about presumptive test. Next, confirmative test. If you are sure that there is if you are doubtful, or if you are not sure that there are coliforms, if you want to make sure that it is coliforms or not, then we have to go for confirmative test. In the confirmative test we have to carry out MPN. What is MPN? Is most probable number. In this most probable number, what we have to do is in the confirmative test, so we have to take 5 test tubes of lactose broth of different dilutions. For example, here if you are taking 10 ml of water, or lactose broth with 10 ml of water, sample water. Here all 1 ml of water. Next 0.1 ml of water. 0.1 ml of water. So like that, if you have to take the different concentrations or different dilutions of water for the presumptive test. So after incubation period, you have to observe the gas formation. So in the first 5, in the first 5 test tubes, if you happen to get 2, in the second, if you happen to get that is bubbles, you will be seeing, and also the color change due to the acidic formation. This coliform will not only produce the gas but also produce an acidic gas. Because of that acidic gas, even color change also will occur. So here if you have, for example, if you have 15 test tubes, out of 15 test tubes, if you have happened to get 9 test tubes positive results, then we will be going for the confirmative test. Okay, understood? So that is about your confirmative test. Mostly dilution factor you have to take. In the dilution factor, 5 stands of test tubes you have to take. In that, first, for example, in the first 5 test tube you have to add 10 ml of water, but lactose broth same in all. Okay, so next one 1 ml, next one 0.1 ml, like that in dilution factor. So after incubation period, you will be observing the how many gas formation also, and also the color variation. So most probable number you have to take based on the chart which is been given for most probable number we will be confirming. If that we have to confirm it by complete test is whatever the color change is there, those test tubes you have to shake it well, and you have to pour this, but after shaking well, first of all inosine blue, methyl blue agar media you have to take in a petri plate. Inosine methyl blue or McConkey broth you have to take in a petri plate. You have to solidify that particular gel, and after that you whatever the positive results acquired from the confirmative test, so you have to shake well and you have to pour that particular liquid on this particular inosine blue petri plates. Then appearance of green metallic mucoids results in gives you that it is E. coli but non-spore forming, coliforms, E. coli but non-spore forming. Okay, if it is pink mucoid with McConkey, then it is bacteriform. Okay, so like that we can judge, and we can take this a small after incubation of 48 hours at temperature. Then we have to take this and we can observe this particular thing under a slide, and we can confirm that it is a coli bacteria, non-sporing or spore forming. Okay, so I hope you have understood this video. Thank you for listening patiently. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you all.